Hey everyone, welcome back. Get ready, because today we're going to dive deep into some seriously cool wisdom. We're talking Naval Ravikant.
Oh man, Naval, love this guy.
Right. And to really get into his head, we're going deep into his book, The Almanack of Naval Ravikant. And let me tell you, this is not your average self-help book.
Yeah, not even close. Naval is different. He's not just about, making money and climbing the ladder. He wants you to rethink what success even means.
Totally. He's like, forget the fancy cars and the big titles. He's all about building a life of like real freedom and independence.
Absolutely. He's talking about real wealth, the kind that gives you control over your time, your choices. It's about building assets that work for you, even while you sleep.
It's like he's saying, stop playing by someone else's rules. Build a life that works on your terms.
Exactly. And that starts with understanding his definition of wealth.
Hmm.
Forget about piles of cash. He's talking about things like, investments that grow over time, businesses that kind of run themselves, things that generate income without you constantly having to hustle.
Okay, that makes sense. But how do we actually like build that kind of wealth?
Well, Naval says it all starts with tapping into what he calls your specific knowledge.
Specific knowledge. What's that?
It's all about figuring out what you're uniquely good at, not what you learned in school, but that unique skill set or knowledge that you have, the thing that makes you, well, you.
Okay, I think I'm getting it. So for some people, that might be like their amazing sales skills. For others, it might be their, I don't know, crazy obsession with a specific topic that nobody else even knows about.
Yeah, exactly. It's about finding that thing that you're so good at. It almost feels unfair to everyone else. And it's interesting. Naval's own story is a perfect example of this.
Oh, really? Tell me more.
So he didn't grow up with a silver spoon or anything. He came from a single-parent household in India. But even as a kid, he was soaking up information like a sponge, analyzing it, and like spotting opportunities that everyone else missed.
So that like natural curiosity, that drive to learn, that was his superpower.
It really was. And it's what eventually led him to Silicon Valley, where he made his fortune.
Okay, so you figured out your specific knowledge, your unique thing. What's next?
Naval would tell you to stop waiting for permission. Take that knowledge, own it, and leverage it. He calls it permissionless leverage.
Permissionless leverage. Okay, now you're just using big words to sound smart. Break it down for me.
Think about all those times you've been told you're not ready, you need more experience, you need this degree, that connection. Permissionless leverage is about saying, screw that. It's about using tools like coding, writing, or online platforms to create your own path. You're not asking for permission, you're just doing it.
It's like taking your future into your own hands. I like that.
Right. And the best part is, Naval actually walks the walk. He could have easily played it safe, stuck with the traditional Silicon Valley playbook, but he didn't. He put himself out there, took risks, shared his ideas, and invested in things like crypto when everyone else was still on the fence.
He wasn't afraid to be different, to challenge the status quo.
Exactly. But you know what else he warns us about? The status game.
The status game. What's
Yeah.
that?
It's that never-ending cycle of trying to keep up with the Joneses, always comparing ourselves to others, trying to one-up each other.
Oh, I know that game. It's exhausting.
Right, and it gets us nowhere.
It's like we're all running around trying to impress each other, but for what? Mabel's saying break free from that, focus on what actually matters.
Totally. Instead of playing this zero-sum game where someone always has to lose, he wants us to focus on positive-sum games. Situations where everyone benefits, where we can collaborate and succeed together.
Collaboration over competition. I like the sound of that. But, okay, we're building wealth, we're figuring out our specific knowledge, we're escaping the status game. Where does happiness fit into all of this?
Yeah, because Naval's got some really interesting things to say about happiness, too. He says it's not this, like, destination you arrive at, it's more like a skill, something you have to cultivate and practice.
A skill. So you're saying we can actually, like, learn to be happier.
That's exactly what he's saying. He talks about this idea of a happiness baseline. It's like, imagine a thermostat, right? But instead of controlling the temperature, it controls your level of happiness. And a lot of us are trying to crank that thermostat up with external things, a bigger house, a fancier car, more followers on social media. But real happiness doesn't come from outside.
So it's an inside job.
100%.
Yeah.
And this is where Naval gets really interesting. He actually suggests that a lot of our unhappiness comes from, well, desire itself.
Wait, what? Desire. As in wanting things.
Yeah, he's drawing on this idea from Buddhism, this concept that clinging to things, always chasing after the next thing, actually leads to suffering.
Okay, I'm going to need you to unpack that a little because, I mean, wanting things is kind of like human nature, right?
Sure, it's natural to want things, but it's about recognizing the difference between desires that are driving us crazy and ones that are actually moving us in the right direction. It's about finding that balance.
So it's not about becoming like totally desireless, like some kind of monk on a mountaintop.
No, not at all. We can still want things, strive for things, but it's about not letting those desires control us. It's about learning to be content with what we have while still striving for more.
Okay, I'm with you. So how do we actually do that? How do we cultivate that contentment, that inner peace?
Well, Naval's a big believer in building good habits. And he doesn't just talk the talk, he walks the walk. He's really disciplined about his diet, exercises regularly, make sure he gets enough
Two
sleep.
basics, right?
Exactly. But we often overlook them. He also talks about the importance of mindfulness, meditation, spending time in nature, things like that.
Yeah, those things definitely help me feel more grounded.
Right. And you know what else he's a big advocate for? Limiting exposure to negativity,
Right.
especially from things like social media.
Oh man, social media can be a real happiness killer sometimes. It's easy to get caught in that trap of comparing yourself to everyone else, feeling like you're not good enough. It's like we're constantly bombarded with these like perfectly curated versions of everyone else's lives. It's tough not to feel inadequate sometimes.
It really is. And that's why Naval's such a big advocate for, disconnecting from all that noise, putting down the phone, and focusing on what truly matters in your own life.
It's about finding that balance, right? Being connected, but not letting it consume you. And you know what I really admire about Naval? He doesn't shy away from the big questions.
Yeah, like the really big questions, the meaning of life, the purpose of it all. He dives right in.
Exactly. And he doesn't try to give you some like prepackaged answer. Instead, he offers different perspectives, different ways of looking at things, and encourages you to figure out what resonates with you.
He's all about empowering you to find your own truth. Like in the book, he presents these three different perspectives on the meaning of life, right? One is that it's totally subjective. You define your own meaning. Another is that, well, maybe there is no inherent meaning. We're just here.
And then he throws in this third option, and it's kind of mind-blowing. It's all about like the laws of physics and stuff.
Right. He talks about how living systems are constantly fighting against entropy. Like we're
Yeah.
creating order out of chaos.
Okay, I'm not gonna lie. I'm a little lost on that one.
He's basically saying that the universe naturally tends towards disorder, randomness. But here we are, these complex beings, creating, building, organizing. Our very existence is kind of defying the odds.
So we're like these little pockets of complexity in a universe that's constantly trying to simplify things.
Exactly. And that's where we find meaning, in
Yep.
that active creation, that striving to make something out of nothing.
Wow. It kind of makes you realize that like this whole pursuit of wealth and happiness isn't just about ourselves, right? It's about contributing to something bigger, something more meaningful.
Absolutely. It's about leaving the world a little bit better, a little bit more complex than we found it.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the mind of Naval Ravikant, what are you hoping our listeners will take away from all of this?
For me, it all boils down to this. Real wealth isn't about how much money you have. It's about having the freedom to design a life that truly lights you up. And that starts by understanding your own values, tapping into your specific knowledge and building something meaningful.
It's about taking ownership of your life, your happiness, your future. No more waiting for permission, no more playing by someone else's rules.
Exactly. And never stop questioning, never stop learning, never stop pushing yourself to grow.
Naval doesn't give us all the answers, but he gives us the tools to find our own. And that's a pretty incredible gift. So, to everyone listening, what resonated with you today? What wisdom will you carry with you? What will you create?
Keep those questions in mind and keep diving deep.
Until next time.